This video is all about the 3 common mistakes I see in coding interviews today, and that I want to help you fix right away. They all revolve around 3 things: your resume, how you talk, and your presence. Let's talk about your resume. The first common mistake I see people fall to all the time is not knowing your tech or your projects well enough. People put these great big stories or projects or things that aren't necessarily, they're true, but let's keep it right. They're true. They maybe went to AWS and started their certification, or maybe they did build part of a commerce site, or maybe they did do some type of role or responsibility. But when it comes down to it, they can't seem to answer the insight questions. And if you've seen the other video from before about the 4 types of questions, that's what I'm getting back to, the insight questions. This is where not knowing your tech and your projects enough is a common mistake of people don't then have good insight answers to the projects they're working on, the technology they've done. Those questions are meant to validate and see what you have learned. And if you cannot show validation in the sense of what you're putting on there is true or is good enough as to what you proclaimed it was on your resume, or you can't answer questions about it, it's a very common mistake that I see, that it's just like, well, another one bites the dust. Sorry, I break out in songs sometimes. I thought that'd be a fun one. So that's the first common mistake inside a resume. Another one inside of resumes is not answering the questions. When people ask about around certain areas that maybe aren't directly talking to your resume, maybe aren't directly talking to the tech, but they don't answer the questions that, based on what I see, tells me you should be able to talk about how Lambda functions work, or talk about how you write a handler with Node.js for a Lambda function. And maybe you get into, so this is where like they might be saying Amazon on their resume, but down inside of it, we're going to ask you about a handler function and how maybe inside the Lambda works and how that all works. And then they can't answer the questions. The third in a resume common mistake I see is the tech responsibility inside your resume to be able to show the language, like you know enough about your language, you can demonstrate it, your resume talks to it, your experiences can show it. But pointing the technical responsibility inside the resume is to say, or to show the base of knowledge or the base technical expertise they have that deems them worthy of this job or this interview or where they're at. And far too often when you start out, I know in the beginning it's hard to have all that, but you can certainly learn all of it and then not put that on there. You can put it on there and be able to talk to it and have experiences on there. So within resume, you should know your tech, know your projects, be able to answer questions, anything on it, and have displayed technical expertise to the level of what you are trying to interview for. The second common mistake I see is how people talk in interviews, or what people talk about and their confidence within talking specifically is the first one. And I talked about this in some of the other videos, how people question themselves and have self-deprecating talk. That's one of the first things they do. The second thing inside of talking is money. They talk about money. Like, please do not talk about money in the interview. More often than not now, HR people or recruiters are the only ones that are allowed to talk about it, unless it's a really small company and it's a small shop. But more often than not, it's left to recruiters and HR. So please do not come in to a technical candidate or to the manager right away, or to any of them unless it's prompted. Don't talk about money. Don't talk about how you don't want to lose shares, or don't talk about how like, oh yeah, this is a lot of money. That's what I'm here for. Do not make it about money. I've seen plenty of times to where I almost want to say too many. It's not crazy amount, but I've seen enough to know better that people should think about it more and be conscious of, this is not about money. This leads me right into my next point. It's about the situation you're interviewing for. I've also seen people not just talk about money, they've talked about, oh, I just can't wait to get out of my current situation. I can't wait to get to a better team. And then it becomes, well, it's now not about our team, it's about you just getting out of your situation, and you could care if it's us or McDonald's. right? And I can use that example over and over again in this playlist. But it's about you leaving the situation. People do that all the time. And it's not just like, you can't be just looking for an exit out of something. So don't do that. Don't do it. It's too easy to do, to fall into that trap where people make that mistake and talk about money, leaving the current situation, looking for an exit, or not wanting to exit because of money or something around that nature. So be careful how you talk. Those are some of the most common mistakes I see within how people talk in an interview that gets them in trouble very, very quickly. My last common mistake is the presence in the room. It's a very common mistake most people don't actually talk about, and that I want to make sure we talk about here today. And that is, when I say your presence in the room, this is all about your body language. Far too often, people come into an interview and you'll see their demeanor is very closed in. It's very they're covering themselves, they're playing with their hair. It's not just they're closed in and they're unconfident. It's like the nervousness kicks in. And I get this is a tough situation, right? Coming in for an interview that could change your life. I get it's hard, but the presence in the room speaks volumes to you as a person and to you as in the interview. People all the time don't even acknowledge this, when really the presence in the room of you are very open. You're very, your voice is projecting, and you're not cowering back. You're not closed off. You're not holding your arms like this under your armpits. And you're being very open. You're being honest. You're giving your best foot forward, and you have a good presence in the room, and people know that you're there and you are interested and you're engaging. And the mistake is, far too often, it almost feels like you don't want to be in the room because you're so nervous or so unconfident, that it is a huge mistake people make all the time. I'd much rather see you sit up, project your voice, open chest, and be very confident with everything you say, or at least try to be confident. Act as if you're confident. And so that is the third mistake. Overall, focusing on what you're saying on your resume and being able to talk to it is really the most common mistake I see. The second most common mistake is people talking about things they just shouldn't, in the sense of whether it's money or leaving the current situation or looking to get out. Don't talk about those things and why you're looking for a job. Not worth it. And third and lastly, the presence in the room can make all the difference in how the interview goes and how the outcome is. That would be a timer. I'm right on time. Perfect. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or question down below. I'm very happy to get to that. There'll be some more videos coming out in this area, especially I know we're going to talk more about technical responsibility. If you haven't seen some of the ones on getting ready, preparing, coding interview 101, there's a lot of other great stuff coming out, and I will see you guys in the next video.